Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Boys and girls, grab your coffee. We need to get started. We got some new Q posts. I want to talk a little bit about YouTube, this platform, this channel, and what that means for you and me. So let's get started. All right, first things first, we're on Mashable.com. YouTube says it can delete your account if you're not commercially viable. We're not going to go way in depth in this article here. I just want to point out that on December 10th, their new terms are going to begin. YouTube may terminate your access or your Google account's access to all or part of the service if YouTube believes in its sole discretion that provision of the service to you is no longer commercially viable. All right, well, long story short, that's me. And that might be you, and it might be some of your favorite content creators. What this is YouTube basically giving us the warning that they are ready to give us the boot. Now, they may not. But the fact of the matter is that we need to be prepared for this to happen. Now, I get a lot of people saying, Patrick, why don't you just leave YouTube and go to, X platform? Well, that's a great idea. But I want to point out that on YouTube, I have 150,000 subscribers, and I'm over here on my BitChute now where I have 4. And I'm thankful for all you 4. As a matter of fact, probably about 1,000 of you just joined this weekend, and thank you so much. But the fact of the matter is that we can't really migrate without you. It doesn't make any sense for me to drop a platform where I've still got 150,000 subscribers to go to a platform where I've got 4. I think that makes sense. Just bad math. But we're probably going to have to at some point. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have all the answers to this. As far as BitChute goes, it's been the most reliable outside of YouTube as far as putting up my videos and whatnot. There's a lot of different platforms that can be used. I'm over here on Gab too, where I also have about 1.3 followers. So you can see it's just not as substantial as something like YouTube and Twitter right now. But the fact of the matter is that they're looking for a way to push us out, and we're going to need to probably find a way to migrate. So my links are down below in the video description, right below the video. You can choose the one that you like. Personally, if I do get the boot, I will continue to post on BitChute because they've never given me the boot. Now, they have given me problems uploading. It seems to be more of a technical issue or whatnot. So sometimes I can't upload. But overall, they haven't actually taken anything down. And as you can see right there, there's my latest video, the Weatherman 2, which just came out yesterday. If you haven't checked that out, please check it out. But for those of you who are going to be wondering what's going to go on with YouTube, if you find me missing or if you find your favorite content creator missing, that's what's going on. And we're trying to warn you, and we're trying to get you guys to migrate. But we can't really do that without you. We really need your help. So I would love to implore that you either join me over here on BitChute or Gab or another alternative source, so that eventually we can make this transition a little bit smoother for us, because this could happen any day. And I want to point out that just yesterday, YouTube took my channel down for about an hour and removed all my videos and then put them back. Now my whistleblower videos were removed, and I'm already in talks with them over that. They're not budging on that, but that's a different story. But the fact of the matter is that yes, they can drop it, and you wouldn't be able to even email me. So we need to make these moves. I'm trying to join some other platforms and set up some other accounts, and I think I will probably be setting up my own website at some point. So if any of you have interest in taking part of that or whatever, you guys are welcome to email me at inpot76@gmail.com, and I'm going to be changing that email too, but I'm not ready to give that out just yet. But it's all linked down below. Please subscribe to one of these alternate channels. Please do it today. Let's move on. Let's get started on Q. 3575 is where we last left you, intrepid explorers, 46 minutes after the hour of 12. We simply get this here, DEC within some forward slashes here. The D is not capitalized, but the C is. Are we talking about class? Are we talking about December? Don't know. This could be just part of a URL in relation to some of these other posts. It does look like Q is still doing some testing. Dustin Nemos had an interesting thought about this earlier, talking about Sarah Carter's tweet from the other day in regards to Democrats wanting to impeach in December, not just December, but Christmas. So are we expecting something in Christmas? And Dustin brings up the good point, rememberizing us of the Jekyll Island incident from way back in the day, 1913, when the Federal Reserve, which is anything but federal, was basically set up. In 1913, they did that on December 23rd, so right as everyone had gone home for Christmas break. And it looks like that might be when they might be trying to pull some impeachment knuckleheadedry. So interesting idea there from Dustin. I'm not so sure. This could be in regards to D-Class, and it could mean very little to us in the public. It could just be testing of this new URL. As you know, 8kun is still dealing with its own issues, and it looks like there's a little bit of back and forward going on. But you guys can let me know what you think down below. Do we have a D-Class coming? Do we have something coming in Christmas that we should be thinking about? You tell me. But we're going to move on to 3576 for now, 56 minutes after the hour 12. We get kind of more of the same here. And again, I don't know if this is part of another URL. I didn't see anything. I kind of tried adding it to a few things, and it didn't really help. But we have this AGG, RESIR, and DEC, and it is spaced out with these little underscores here. I'm not sure if that's aggregate or recirculation. Maybe Q was trying to put an image up and wasn't able to. I don't really know. Or maybe they're trying to just recirculate whatever this is. But you guys can let me know what you think down below. Let's move on to 3577. 30 minutes after the hour 1. We get a Twitter link right here. And it takes you to the Twitter of Stormy Patriot Joe at Stormy Patriot 21. Congrats, Joe, on getting Q. Q, then POTUS, then Q. This is the Q I know. And I'm just going to kind of drag the cursor here because this is a screenshot, and basically what they're showing here is that Q posted. You see 3575 right there was posted at 46 minutes after the hour of 12, and then POTUS retweeted the White House a few different times, and it was sort of in between, and that's what they're showing here. So it kind of skips around a little bit. There's the White House tweet there at 11:05. But POTUS tweeted it at 48 minutes after 12. So it came in a couple times. And normally, for those of you who are new to following Q, oftentimes if Q and POTUS want to show us a direct correlation of working together, they will tweet or retweet kind of in between or really, really within a few minutes of Q posting. You might see a tweet from the POTUS and whatnot. And that's what we're seeing here. Just a couple minutes of each other. We see a couple of times this has been retweeted. So this video skips around just a little bit, but that's what they're trying to show here, is that the POTUS retweeted this from the White House. Looks to be like 3 times right there in between, and then Q came on again. So again, just showing that there is a close proximity between Q and the POTUS. Nice job, Patriot Joe. Next post, 3578. 3 minutes after the hour of 4, we get another Twitter link right here. And it takes you to the Twitter link of Just Informed Talk. And Just Informed Talk does a lot of great work on Twitter and YouTube. A lot of great stuff, a lot of QD codes and things like that. Many of you probably already follow Just Informed Talk. If you don't, just go look for them over there on YouTube or at Just Inform U, the letter U, on Twitter. And congrats to you, Just Informed, who posted this video here from Trump's speech in Tupelo, Mississippi. Nothing to see here, just real Donald Trump confirming the new 8kun.net forum in last night's speech. So let's check it out.
But you have to reject their extremism and their socialism and their corruption. They're corrupt. Adam Schiff is a corrupt politician. You know, when he made that phony speech where he made up a really horrible speech and said that I said it, I said, oh, I'm going to sue him. They said, sir, I'm sorry, you can't. He's got total immunity because he made it in Congress. Can you believe this? But, you know, here's the good news. At least we have a forum. We have a place we can talk so everyone knows what's going on. Bunch of phony people. But this is what...
So there you go, a bunch of phony people, and we got to come up with our own forum. Was POTUS just simply talking about the rallies? Could be, but it looks like Q is referencing us to this video to remind us that 8kun.net is likely our new forum. 8kun being, of course, formerly Chan. It looks like Q is trying to get us to go over here so that we'll have our own little forum that we can all stay connected. So nice connection there from Just Informed Talk. Way to go and get your shout out from Q there. And it looks like Q is letting us know that 8kun is indeed legit. Post 3579, 15 minutes after the hour of 4, we have this here, aggregate image failure. So keep in mind, I'm reading this off of qmap.pub, which is an aggregate site, meaning that Q's going to post on 8kun or 8chan, whichever one you want to call it. It's now known as 8kun. And then that gets read on these aggregate boards like where I'm reading it from. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to see. It looks like maybe something got lost in translation and an image failed to upload. That's kind of what I was thinking in the earlier post. This seems to kind of suggest it. So it could have been something just getting, going from 8chan to QMAP. Maybe there was meant to be an image or a graphic or something like that that didn't upload. And then we have more to this. Root DOD, meaning I would assume Department of Defense, which I think we should all keep our eyes on. 11, 11, 18. And then we have a / right here. Well, we've seen this before. And this was from a post from 2018, November 21st, 2018, in post 1, 2, 3, 4, where Q had answered an Anon saying simply, America will be unified again. And then we had this 11, 11, 18. Now, we thought it could have been a date, although I did point this out back then that it did have a dot after the 18, which usually they don't put for a date. And this one has a / on post 3579. So was Q talking about a date? Was it a double meaning? Don't know, but it looks like it probably was an IP address, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But you can see here is the graphic right here, and that 11.11.18.00 to 255 are a bunch of IP addresses. So were these IP addresses used by the DoD? That's a very normal thing to do, that the DoD would have multiple IP addresses just in case or whatnot. And that looks like what we're dealing with here, and that very well is probably what we're dealing with as far as this new forum that POTUS was talking about. This is something that's been long in the works being set up so that we can bypass the mainstream media and we can all get our information this way. And it looks like Q is confirming this here by saying this is indeed a set of IP addresses. We'll talk more about that in the future posts here. But as you can see, those are the addresses right there. Q says future proves past. Let's move on. Post 3580, 55 minutes after the hour of 5. Ooh, there's a 5-5 right there. See it, John?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. Thomas Jefferson. What we seek is the reign of law based upon the consent of the governed and sustained by the organized opinion of mankind. And that is from Woodrow Wilson. And on a side note, Woodrow Wilson was the one who signed in the Federal Reserve Act in 1913 on December 23rd, thereby screwing us all. Educate and inform the whole mass of people. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. And that is also from Thomas Jefferson. So it looks like Q is trying to give some inspiring words and reminding us that educating and informing the whole mass of people is what it's really about. It's about us being able to make our own decisions, not these knuckleheads from the lamestream media trying to push their little narrative. Let's move on. Post 3581, 23 minutes after the hour of 6, calm before the storm. And that is what POTUS told the press on October 5th, 2017. No. Month day Q public campaign initiated. That was October 28th, 2017, not long after. And that was the same day that Durham was initiated. That, I think, is the point Q is trying to make. What famous crime family did Durham target? Well, I guess a few families, but I think Q is pointing out the Gambino crime family in particular. This is a quote from Time magazine. Also spearheaded mob prosecutions of the Gambino, Genovese, and Patriarca crime families. And that is from Time magazine right here. This is an article from the 26th of August, 2009. Says also the press-shy Connecticut prosecutor was tapped by Attorney General Eric Holder on August 24th to investigate alleged mistreatment of terror suspects by CIA interrogators and contractors. So he's been around for a while. It says down here, led a task force to go after Hartford Street gangs in 1992, also spearheaded mob prosecutions of the Gambino, Genovese, and patriarchal crime families, like we just said. So I imagine that's what we're talking about. And of course, we have to keep in mind that when we're talking about the Gambinos, we are also talking about another related family, which would be the D'Alessandro family. And that, of course, is Pelosi. So a lot of these families obviously are connected. What ABC agency did Durham target? Well, he did investigate some of the CIA, like I just pointed out, but in particular, we were talking about the FBI. How are messages sent? So keep in mind, Durham was also investigating Whitey Bulger and his connection to the FBI and how the FBI was protecting Whitey Bulger for so many years. That goes straight to Robert Mueller. I wouldn't be surprised if he knew exactly what was up with Robert Mueller. If you want to know more about that story, I highly suggest that you check out, it's entitled Mueller Unmasked, and that is written by Representative Louis Gohmert. You can find it online. It's a big PDF, and we've covered it before. But this talked about Robert Mueller and how he was essentially protecting Whitey Bulger. Keep in mind also that just about a year ago, Whitey Bulger was killed while being transferred from prison to prison. And the odd thing about that whole thing was that his body was found unrecognizable. Here you have this high-profile guy that would have seemed to have been protected as a witness for so many years. And essentially the accusation was that Mueller, in exchange for a lot of whatever the information he was getting from Bulger, would protect Bulger from and kind of essentially eliminate his competition. And then here we get when he gets finally transferred out of prison, he's unrecognizable. Something doesn't sound right. Sounds kind of like one of those Epstein stories, right? The next link takes you to Rolling Stone. This is an article from July of this year, July 22nd. If you follow QAnon for a while, you probably remember this story. Anthony Comello, 24, murdered alleged mob boss Frank Cali because he became convinced he was part of a deep state conspiracy against President Trump, his lawyer alleges. And this right here was a very strange story. Here you can see the guy, he's got Q scribbled on his hand. Now, I do want to point out, let me rememberize you, that I had sources from inside the courtroom that reported when he first came in, he did not have that on his hand. Looks like he may have exited and then scribbled something on pen and on his hand. As you can see, it's kind of a mess there. So you can take that or leave it, but that's what I reported back then. That was the information that I got. But this guy was actually dating this Cali's niece. That was how they were connected. He didn't have any mob ties, and he was originally going to arrest him. That's what this article goes on to talk about, and ended up killing him. Just seems very strange. But here's the part that I have the hardest time with, is that you'd think this would be a really important story. And Rolling Stone here spends only the first paragraph talking about that, and then they go on to just talk about QAnon and how dangerous QAnon is and all the different theories that QAnon has. Interesting indeed. So here we have this knucklehead that was, although not mafia tied, was tied to this Cali guy by way of his niece, and he was going to go arrest him. Instead, ends up killing him. Seems very strange, and all the media outlets want to talk about QAnon, not about Comello. You would think that this guy would be the danger, not QAnon. Interestingly enough, he goes after this guy who happens to be tied to a family that Durham happens to be investigating. How about that? Almost like they wanted to get rid of that guy and conveniently blame it on this guy who can conveniently blame it on QAnon. Are you following it? It sounds legit, right? No? That's because it's not. Now, back to the Q post. December 12th, 2018, Q is referencing post 2603, where Q says, what if there's another prosecutor outside of D.C. assigned by Jeff Sessions with the same mandate authority, basically the same mandate authority as attorney John Huber, who we were all kind of wondering what was up with around December of 2018. He was getting dragged through the media, and we were wondering if he was dragging his feet. Q was pointing out that Durham was the one that was really investigating a lot of this too. Now, they're both involved, of course, but we were referencing Durham. And I pointed out back then, too, that he was being referenced in the James Baker testimony. So we knew that Durham was involved. Now it looks like this is some criminal investigations. So we can probably expect more situations like this Anthony Comello, knuckleheads that have nothing to do with QAnon, trying to blame things on QAnon. 5-5, meaning reading loud and clear. So I would expect that Durham is going to get dragged through the mud, through the media, and they're also going to come up with a lot more of these Comelo-esque situations where they try to blame violence on QAnon. And all I can say about that is be careful what you post. Please understand that as a content creator, I'm trying to stay online. So for a lot of you who like to tag me and things, especially I see this on Twitter, you know, it'll be some really gnarly graphic of, you know, Hillary eating a baby and saying satanic pedivore and this and that. Look, some of that might be true, but don't tag me in that stuff. That's a good way to get me kicked off a line. And I don't want strangers picking fights for me. Right now, what we want to see is justice. And so just be careful about how you express that, because they're looking right now for any way to knock us offline. And I most certainly don't appreciate strangers speaking for me. I would never speak for you. So be careful about what you post. We want to see justice. We want to do this the right way, but we also want to stay online. Just a tip from Sir Patrick Mack. Do you believe in coincidences? 5-5, meaning do you read loud and clear? I think we do, Patriot. Be ready, Patriots. Q. Let's move on. Next post, 3582, 51 minutes after the hour of 6. We get a Twitter link right here. Q says, MSM constant attacks. Ask yourself, why? And it takes you to the Twitter page of the Dem Party is dead. Nice on you getting the shout out from Q, POTUS, and Q near Zero Delta, with Q posting seconds before Trump. And on the left, you see the post 3581 that we just covered. That was posted at 23 minutes after 3 and 51 seconds. So just seconds later, POTUS tweeted, just like Schiff fabricated my phone call, he will fabricate the transcripts that he is making and releasing, right there at 3:24. So for those of you who are new to Q, these are the kind of proofs that we're looking for, showing the real close proximity of POTUS and Q. And usually it's going to be POTUS after Q, because that's a lot more validating, of course, than if Q posted after POTUS, which would be post POTUS, right? So these are the kind of proofs that we're looking for, and oftentimes they're very, very close together. And that's how we know that the source is indeed legit. Q says, MSM constant attacks. Yeah, we just had another wave of them, and all the different MSM platforms are probably outwriting their Q hit pieces right now. Ask yourself, why? Well, because we know that the IG report is still pending. We know that Durham is probably getting very, very close to maybe even issuing some indictments. But we also know that 8kun.net is up. So there's a whole lot of reasons to go after Q. After all, if Q was indeed the conspiracy theory that they say it is, why would they spend so much time trying to debunk it? Ask yourself why. I think you know the answer. Let's move on to the next post. 3583. 21 minutes after the hour of 7, June 12, 2018. Would you believe Hussein, being Barack Hussein in the membrane, Obama tried to call Kim, being Kim Jong-un, prior to the summit? He did not have his updated phone number. Q. And it takes us to this article, to the Daily Mail. From the Daily Mail UK, Trump, Obama tried to call Kim Jong-un 11 times, but he wouldn't answer. This was from October 22nd of this year. Donald Trump said Monday during a cabinet meeting that a North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un, prefers communicating with him to dealing with his predecessor, Barack Obama, claiming Obama tried unsuccessfully nearly a dozen times to get Kim to take his phone calls. So I want to actually take you to this video. I want to thank the Dirty Truth, who actually posted this a while back. Check the video out.
Shifty Schiff, Schumer, these people are trying to destroy the country. It's a very bad thing what they're doing. The President of the United States should be allowed to run the country, not have to focus on this kind of crap, while at the same time doing a great job on Syria and Turkey and all of the other things that we're doing. North Korea, okay, maybe someday, but I'll tell you what, if somebody else became president with that same mindset that they had, you'd right now be in a big war with North Korea. You don't hear too much about it. Could happen. Could happen. I don't know. I always say, who knows? It's deals. Who knows? But in the meantime, North Korea's, I like him. He likes me. We get along. I respect him. He respects me. You could end up in a war. President Obama told me that. He said the biggest problem, I don't know how to solve it. He told me he doesn't know how to solve it. I said, did you ever call him? No. Actually, he tried 11 times. But the man on the other side, the gentleman on the other side, did not take his call. Okay? Lack of respect. But he takes my call.
So there you go, straight from the POTUS. And again, another Q proof, because Q had told us about it in June of 2018. Would you believe Hussein tried to call Kim prior to the summit? He did not have his updated phone number, and that's from post 1465 from back in June of 2018. So again, for those of you who are new, another Q proof, because POTUS said it later. Now, this indeed seems to be true. It says down here, previous number tracked, surveilled by a select dedicated team. Yeah, likely that it was these 3 North Korean generals. As you can see in the original post here, 3 North Korean generals released. And so that kind of broke down the pathway for bad actors. Previous number tracked, surveilled by a select dedicated team. Number breakdown pre, post, POTUS, elect. And I also want to point out that when POTUS was elected and signed the December 2017 EO talking about defunding anybody guilty of human rights violations, Eric Schmidt decided to step down. Of course, he's Google, Alphabet, and all that. And he was out there in North Korea setting up servers back in 2016 with the governor from New Mexico. So this was essentially a deep state proxy, very much like Iran, very much like Ukraine. It was another reason to kind of threaten people, threaten the world, essentially, to get what they want. I don't know if they necessarily wanted to create nuclear war, although that was always going to be the threat. But the threat sometimes is even worse. And that's what they were sort of using. They were skirting the NSA, setting up these servers out there. And of course, every couple months, you had Kim Jong-un popping off saying that he was going to fire off some missiles. Well, I'm sure right now they would love to do some more of that, but unfortunately, that number has reached a dial tone. Do you believe in coincidences relevant to future upcoming events? So I think that we can look forward to, like I said, Durham getting dragged through the media, QAnon getting dragged through the media, and probably Rocket Man firing off a couple of rockets. Let's move on. Post 3584, 30 minutes after the hour of 7. Google whistleblower, Project DeepMind, AI Manhattan Project. Now we're starting to get into some sketchy stuff. This is from Breitbart on the 14th of October. Whistleblower, Google is developing AI for planetary surveillance. Former Google senior software developer and whistleblower Zach Voorhees appeared on SiriusXM's Breitbart News Tonight with host Rebecca Mansour Friday to discuss Google's relationship with communist China and the company's artificial intelligence project DeepMind, which has been called the AI Manhattan Project. DeepMind disputed Voorhees' comments in a statement to Breitbart News, saying it does not have operations in China. And you can listen to it right here if you'd like. I'll link it down below, but it's also in the QMAP. But let me take you down here. So Google bought this AI company called DeepMind, Voorhees replied. Let me just put it in plain language, what that is. DeepMind was creating a godlike AI system that is able to ingest the available public information on the internet and make sense of it. Think of it like Amazon Alexa, except much, much, much more intelligent. This AI system was moved out of the UK, I believe, and placed into China, and it's been dubbed the AI Manhattan Project. Okay, so this is really, really big stuff. And this is indeed true, this program. Now, what they're actually disputing here from Google, they're disputing Zach Voorhees, to be fair, that they've moved into China. And I don't really know if that's true or not. But this AI and this DeepMind project is a very, very real project. Let me take you back to the Q post. February 18th, 2018. Q references Project Deep Dream version 2A. Q, do you believe in coincidences? Well, let's take you back.
Got a flashback of signs, yeah, take you back, yeah.
Taking you back to February 18th, where we saw this post, 790, at Snowden, being, of course, Edward Snowden. Where are you? Not Russia. Yeah, we had assumed that Edward Snowden was in Hong Kong. Eyes on, you're now a liability. Helping at Jack, likely helping Jack Dorsey set up this Project Deep Dream, very much like DeepMind. This is called Project Deep Dream version 2, and then we have A with a couple brackets there on the other side. We will never forget. Eric Schmidt failed. Now, we don't really know if this is Edward Snowden or Eric Schmidt, but it really could have been both. And Q ended up kind of confirming that it was referring essentially to both at different times. Where is Edward Snowden or Eric Schmidt? John Perry Barlow. Now, John Perry Barlow worked with Edward Snowden, and he also wrote lyrics for the Grateful Dead back in the day. He was also the one that came up with the Declaration of Independence for a cyberspace, and of course, he was mysteriously found dead. Defying the end, the day of reckoning is upon us, John 3:16. But what I really want to talk about is this Project Deep Dream. Now, I made a video about this on February 24th, 2018, entitled 2 Minutes of Truth, Episode 3, Deep Dream. It's only 1 minute and 48 seconds long, but we talk about this program, Deep Dream. Now, this thing is very, very odd. This thing basically takes pictures and it turns it into other pictures. They call it pareidolia. And this is actually used as a surveillance program. I highly suggest you check the video out because it explains it in more detail, but I have it drawn up on this right here. Funded by Dewey in the startup stage, Dewey intends to use Deep Dream for real-time mass surveillance alongside the latest incarnation of the CIA's targeted assassination beta program known as Iron Hand. So essentially what this is doing, and of course I'm oversimplifying here, but this is using AI to recognize faces right from your own computer screen. It doesn't even need to be through your camera. It can recognize things, but Deep Dream was even going to go even further than that and actually try to spy on you while you dream. And they were actually dreaming up AI programs to actually try to see if it can read your dreams and essentially go into all this sort of predictive crime kind of thing, right? Sort of like a lot of these movies that we've seen, like Inception or Jason Bourne, which is basically what this was based off of. But you see what's going on here. This is AI reading faces, reading your minds, reading your voices, reading everything about you. Essentially, LifeLog, which later, of course, became Facebook. And if this is confusing all of you, it is very, very, very confusing. There's a lot of programs here involved. But this Deep Mind, this Deep Dream, all this stuff is using AI and facial recognition software and really so much more beyond than that, trying to essentially even read your thoughts and maybe even predict your behavior and possibly arrest you because of it. So all this was getting set up. It looked like Edward Snowden was helping a lot of these tech agencies doing that. And then, of course, when they got on the Edward Snowden basically released this information that the NSA was spying on us, making him look like a good guy so he could run off to Russia and hide. Did you get all that? Good. Post 3585, 49 minutes after the hour of 7, we get this Twitter link right here. And it takes you to the Twitter link of Clark Petronov, who is talking about this graphic that I showed you earlier in regards to these IP addresses. Dang, so that was an IP address, not a date. Hashtag military precision. Well, good on you, Clark, for getting a shout out. And we know now that that's what that was all about. It was about the seizing of these IP addresses, likely to be used for 8kun, so that we can be left alone. Then Q says, Project Looking Glass going forward in order to look back. And I'm assuming that we are connecting Project Looking Glass to these Deep Dream projects. This actually connects a lot of projects. For those of you not familiar with Project Looking Glass, they claim on Wikipedia that it's a now inactive software. This was in order to enable your desktop to be kind of more 3D. But what it really seemed to be was an implication of software that allowed them to spy through your screen. Like I said, being able to see and receive through your screen, not just your camera. And this really goes way back. I'm not an authority on this, but one person I'd really like to give credit in regards to Project Looking Glass would be David Wilcock, who's been talking about this for a long, long time. And this has to do with the Montauk Project, Project Camelot, a lot of these older CIA projects that were essentially mass surveillance. Now, it's hard to explain Project Looking Glass. If you really want to know more, I highly suggest checking out maybe a David Wilcock video. I know some people don't like David Wilcock, but like I said, he was one of these guys that was really talking about this for a long time. And we have a history of seeing that this was implemented around the world for quite some time. And I think one of the best demonstrations of this is in one of these movies called Contact with Jodie Foster, where she plays an astronaut and she travels to space, but she's in this contraption. If you remember, she's sitting in this sort of like a globe thing. And all around her, there's this sort of spinning, I don't know, it almost looks like a molecule is sort of spinning around her, and she goes to space, has this whole kind of, the whole movie is sort of about her experience, only to find that she never went anywhere at all. She was just in this contraption. And it seems to be kind of laid out, kind of like how they described this project, Looking Glass. So I'm sorry for those of you who know more about this than I do, and I'm dumbing it down a little bit for the masses here. But that's essentially what it's about. I would look up Project Looking Glass. There's plenty of information online, but it was essentially mass surveillance. And it looks like Q is referencing Project Looking Glass to these deep dream projects. But it looks like we're going to get some more information just kind of relating how far these alphabet agencies were really willing to go to spy and get all your information. Post 3586, 2 minutes after the hour of 8. Once CIA, always CIA. And for those of you who are newer to QAnon, you'll notice that the I is missing. I'm assuming because Q is letting us know that they no longer have the same intelligence. That has been removed, but that's what we're talking about. So Q is kind of speaking in general here about everybody. Former CIA elected to Congress, former CIA running for Congress, former CIA running for Senate. We talked about that last year. There's a ton of old ex-CIA clowns that are running for office. Why would they be doing that? Because they want to get clandestine. They want to be influencing everywhere. Former CIA elected to Senate, former CIA elected to presidency. Define black op. Clandestine. Like I said, clandestine, spread out. They want to be involved in everything. Once CIA, always CIA. And that's exactly what Snowden was. At Snowden, pre-NSA, well, he was CIA. At Snowden base of ops, geolocation. Yeah, I would assume that he was in China, dropped everything, ran off to Russia. Now that may be different, but that's what we're sort of assuming, right? Then we talk about the whistleblower. And of course, my video was just removed about the whistleblower, so I'm not going to say the whistleblower's name, but we know who it was, right? Whistleblowers versus POTUS. There may be more whistleblowers to come. Former CIA. Well, we knew that about the one that I presented to you. So I imagine we can assume that about the other. And I imagine that we can also assume that about little Adam Skiff, right? Define black op, clandestine. Well, I think you get the idea, right? It's an operation that's not supposed to be official, and you run it through all these people that are spread throughout multiple departments all over the world that are all on the take. What happens if rogue elements of US A, B, C, and I want you to note that that C is in brackets there. Remember, C before D. Is that Comey? Is that somebody else's name that I can't say? Don't know, but C before D. Intel agency target to insert US political system. President, Vice President, House, Senate, NSC, U.S. ambassadors, etc. You get the idea. In black op, designated to control friend versus foe, targeting self-preservation. And essentially summing up what this whole thing is. It's the NSA versus the CIA. And that's what we're dealing with here. NSA versus CIA, right? And I think that's why Q didn't really note the difference between ES being Edward Snowden or Eric Schmidt, because they were both involved. Eric Schmidt setting up servers out in North Korea, and of course Snowden helping out in China. These were all black op proxies in order to basically pit these alphabet agencies versus the NSA. So there you go. Finally, post 3587, 56 minutes after the hour of 8, Q says, indictments coming.
What are you waiting for?
2019 Q.
Do it!
No. Well, they're announcing that the IG report is supposed to come out within a week, but I would not hold my breath on that. However, just minutes after that last Q post, we got this from NBC, quote unquote, news breaking. Former President Carter admitted to Emory University Hospital for a procedure to relieve pressure on his brain caused by bleeding due to his recent falls. Procedure scheduled for Tuesday morning. So do me a favor. I will leave a top comment below this video. You can let me know who you think the first to be indicted is. And do you think this has something to do with Jimmy Carter's sudden illness? After all, he had a couple of falls and he had a weird bruise on his left eye only. It wasn't swelling, just bruising. Yeah, almost like it wasn't a real bruise. Anyway, those are your Q posts. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that. Please understand that I really need you guys to join one of my other platforms. Those links are down below. Just in case anything happens here on YouTube, you guys can stay connected with me. It is a big deal and it is likely going to happen. Please don't let it happen first and then try to react. All those links are down below. Gab, BitChute, DropSpace, Brighteon.com. And of course, my Twitter is IPOT1776. That's IPOT1776. All those are linked down below. My email is down below. My P.O. box is down below if you're old school. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon is linked down below. It's all down below in the video description. All right, kids, this is Sir Patrick Mack. And until next time, stay frosty.